Tonight on the Local Live, an update on the lawsuit filed by Ralph's Italian Ices, a Rhinebeck police manhunt after an attempted car robbery, a push to get the Army Corps of Engineers to approve the flood mitigation plan in Mamaroneck, Westchester Magazine's top Larchmont restaurants, and the topic for tonight's live roundtable, sexual harassment. These stories and more coming up on the Local Live tonight. Good evening, it's Thursday, December 14th. I'm Mike Witch and welcome to the Local Live. Have we got news for you? Ralph's Italian Ices was the center of attention in the village of Mamaroneck last summer, and not just for their ices. Some neighbors complained about late-night noise, traffic, parking, and outdoor seating. Plus, neighbors told the Village of Mamaroneck Zoning Board of Appeals that Ralph's was operating with the wrong permit. After months of review, the board decided to close the business. In response, owner Scott Rosenberg sued the village, asking for at least $300,000 in financial damages, as well as permission to reopen his business. But this Tuesday, December 12th, State Supreme Court Judge Annie Minahan denied Ralph's claim and upheld the ZBA's decision. Is this the end of the story? Well, we'll let you know. Two suspected car thieves are in custody after a late-night car chase in Green Haven yesterday, said Rye Police. A neighbor spotted them attempting to break into a vehicle and contacted the police. The suspects sped away, hitting a police car, finally overturning. Police found a loaded firearm on one of the suspects. There were reports of a possible third suspect who escaped, prompting Rhinebeck schools nearby to lock out as police searched the area. Schools have since resumed normal classes and activities. A group of federal lawmakers is asking the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to speed up the review process of Mamaroneck's $80 million flood mitigation plan. According to a story in lowhud.com, New York Senators Schumer and Gillibrand and Representative Eliot Engel wrote a joint letter last week to the Army Corps urging approval of the plan. The letter reads in quote, "This plan is technically feasible, environmentally appropriate, economically justified, and absolutely necessary." The lawmakers added, quote, "The village of Mamaroneck has suffered enough loss, and it is unacceptable to wait any longer to take action." It was 10 years ago that surging waters as high as 8 feet damaged more than 300 homes and 100 commercial buildings throughout the village. For details about this new push for approval, go to lowhud.com. In 1741, George Frederick Handel composed an oratorio titled Messiah. After more than 250 years, his composition is kept alive during the holiday season with performances around the world. In Mamaroneck, the performance of Handel's Messiah is coming to us this weekend. Here's Lindsley Barrios with more.
As the holiday spirit kicks in our community, St. Thomas Church joined the celebrations with a classic performance of Handel's Messiah. Reverend Carol Gaskin shares that this is a continuous celebration of St. Thomas' 200-year anniversary. She invites everyone to join in.
We have our choir, we have 4 internationally known soloists, and we have an orchestra that is comprised of Baroque-era instruments, that is to say, instruments from the period of the time that the Messiah was written. And it will be conducted by Eric J. Milnes, who's our director of music here at St. Thomas.
If you want to assist to this event, you can go to www.stthomasmmrk.org for more information.
Thank you, Lindsley. On Monday, county lawmakers approved a $1.8 billion budget for 2018 that increases Westchester County property taxes by 2%. The budget was passed on a 12-5 bipartisan vote. The budget restores funding for county parks curators and public works engineers. Chairman of the Board of Legislators, Mike Kaplowitz, told the Journal News, quote, "This is a realistic but sobering budget that begins to address our structural shortfalls with a fair cost to the taxpayers." County Executive Rob Astorino says he will veto the budget. However, the county board can override the veto with 12 votes. And the Mamaroneck Public Library announced this morning that their proposed budget for 2018-19 passed overwhelmingly after yesterday's public vote. Also elected as trustees are Nancy Tucci, Paul Ryan, Len Talevi, and Janice Goldklang, who begin a 3-year term on June 1st of next year. The library announced that Clayton Otto will fill the unexpired term of a former trustee, and their website also provided a handy link to LMC TV's Know Your Neighbor's Holiday Book Show with library directors from Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Westchester Magazine has named 3 restaurants in Larchmont as in their list of the top 38 in Westchester. For modern Indian cuisine, check out Coriander on Chatsworth Avenue. Also on Chatsworth, Polpatina serves up Italian fare. And for Thai, give Durian on Chatsworth Avenue a try. See all the restaurants that made the cut at westchestermagazine.com.
Welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Maura Carlin. Who's next? That's the question on many minds as revelations of work-related sexual misconduct flood the news every week, if not every day. From Bill Cosby to Harvey Weinstein to Bill O'Reilly, Al Franken, Matt Lauer, Mario Batali, the list goes on and on. Is it all the same, or should it be treated that way? Recently, New York's U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand criticized those who try to distinguish between the allegations.
I think when we start having to talk about the differences between sexual assault and sexual harassment and unwanted groping, you are having the wrong conversation. You need to draw a line in the sand and say none of it is okay. None of it is acceptable.
Now, not everyone agrees, and we're going to discuss that. Sexual harassment, misconduct, and assault. Should they all be painted with the same brush, and where do we go from here? My guests are attorney Melissa Fleischer, founder of the HR Learning Center, a human resource consulting firm that provides training and counseling on employment issues, including harassment. Michelle Lopez is an assistant district attorney and chief of the Sex Crimes Bureau in Westchester County. Thank you, ladies, for joining us, and we're going to get to talk about this issue from both a civil and a criminal perspective. And as always, you, our viewers, can join the conversation. You email, call, or tweet. Contact information is on your screen. So there are a whole lot of terms being tossed around. Sexual misconduct, harassment, inappropriate sexual conduct, sexual advances without consent. Melissa, what are we really talking about? Are these different words for the same thing?
Great question. I think that, first of all, I want to say that I think that all the people and all the women that have come forward have been extremely brave to do so. And I think that the issue is, of course, from a legal point of view, what Michelle does from a criminal perspective, what I do from a civil law perspective, are very different, but the problem can emanate from the same thing, obviously, sexual harassment.
Well, what is sexual harassment? Is it touching? Is it words? What is it?
So it can be, it's so broadly defined. First of all, there are different types of harassment that can happen in the workplace, as you're aware. There's quid pro quo harassment, which is where someone who has power, which has happened in so many of these cases, abuses their power and requests sexual favors in exchange for the threat of a job detriment, sleep with me or you'll be fired, or the promise of a job benefit, sleep with me and you'll get a raise or a bonus. Then there's hostile work environment that can happen where people are made to feel intimidated or offended by jokes, by comments. It can happen visually, verbally, or physically.
Michelle, when does it cross the line into being an assault or some kind of crime?
Well, the key word that you just put out there is assault. Using words alone is not going to rise to the level of a criminal charge in the terms of a forcible touching or a sex abuse. That requires contact. In a forcible touching context, it requires a pinching, a grabbing, a squeezing with a specific intent. The intent would be for either to degrade a person or demean a person, or it could be for the purposes of sexual desire of either party. Sex abuse is also unwanted contact, sexual intimate parts contact, a hand to breast, a hand to buttocks, a hand to the genitals, which again is for the purposes of sexual gratification of either party. It could be overclothing, it could be underclothing. So that's pretty much where it comes into the criminal aspect. The words itself are not enough.
I mean, does there have to actually be a sexual motive?
For a sex crime?
Yeah, well,
There is. There has to be. It could be either in a forcible touching context, it could be for the purpose of degrading a person. And that is the element for forcible touching. But for sexual contact, the way it's defined in our penal law, it's for the purpose of gratifying a sexual desire. So yeah, there has to be some sort of sexual purpose behind it.
so do you think there's a difference between the allegations against Bill O'Reilly, Harvey Weinstein, and Al Franken, just to take those as examples?
Well, you know, the difference is to the extent that the allegations are that that any of them, okay, abused their power to request sexual favors and to make the women feel uncomfortable. The difference between, as we were just talking about, between the criminal law and the civil law is that in the civil law, intent is completely irrelevant. You don't need intent at all. It is the effect of the person's action, and not even the effect on that particular person who was touched inappropriately or who the comment was made to, but the effect on the reasonable person. And if the reasonable person would be offended, then you have created a hostile work environment. You have engaged in harassment in violation of your organization's policy, in violation of the law.
So let's just take an example, one particular example. The first allegations that came out against Senator Franken about which were touching someone for the purpose of what would appear to be a joke. You would say that that would be a sexual harassment situation, but not necessarily a sex crime?
Well, that's a little different because in that particular allegation, I believe she was sleeping.
Yes.
Right? And it was a photograph. It was meant to be a joke, but it was a photograph of his hands on the breasts of an individual who was sleeping. That could rise to the level of a crime. Sexual abuse in the first degree is a crime involving a lack of consent. The lack of consent, you can't consent if you're sleeping. So if you're sleeping, if you're drugged, for sure, those are the types of things that are going to rise to the level of a criminal charge.
I guess we should also point out that it's not just women who can be affected by this. And there's an example of a male former aide to a Texas Representative Farenthold, who is claiming he was physically and emotionally shaken by comments made by the congressman, sexually comments regarding his fiancée. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So that also, it's not just women.
Absolutely. It's not just women. And, you know, we're tonight talking about sexual harassment, but it's not just based on sex. A hostile work environment harassment can be based on any protected class, age, race, religion, sexual orientation.
And on that, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about why we're talking about this now. And we're back. We've continued the discussion on our own. So this conduct isn't new, and many of the allegations we're talking about are very old. But so why are we talking about it now? Why is this having a moment?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the answer is that you know, as you said earlier, there's strength in numbers, and now. So many women have come forward. So many people have come forward to allege what has happened to them, bravely, of course. That it has created sort of a snowball effect. I mean, you're right. Sexual harassment has been going on forever, and people have come forward. But unfortunately, at times, even though they are protected from retaliation when they complain, Nevertheless, they still fear that. Sometimes that has happened to them nevertheless, but when there's strength in numbers, when so many people have come forward, and some of them being celebrities and people like that, they say, look, if they can do it, I can do it, and I need to come forward to protect not just myself, but other people who have been in this situation.
Again, Senator Gillibrand, who's sort of taken the forefront on a lot of these issues, has said that we shouldn't tolerate things that might have been tolerated 25 years ago, we should not tolerate now. But now, should we be judging something that happened 25 years ago with the glasses of today?
Well,
It's very difficult.
you know, my take on that is that the laws have not changed. And I don't think that it should have been tolerated then. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with looking back and saying, this was the law then, the law hasn't changed. And if people tolerated it, that was inexcusable. Companies have policies, the federal laws, the state laws, local laws really have not changed very much. And so it should not be tolerated.
I'm going
The criminal law has changed, though. The criminal law has changed to eliminate the statute of limitations with respect to sex crimes and the filing of sex crimes. But it certainly, at a certain point, had it happened in the 80s or the 90s, we're going to be out of the box in terms of the statute of limitations and being able to pursue. But certainly, moving forward, we can look at cases.
And you can look at it as an MO and to show, way one deals.
But Melissa is exactly right, and I had said it before, it's strength in numbers. If you have a very old case, it certainly helps in terms of being able to prove, because we have a very different standard of proof. Our standard of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high standard. And under that standard, it definitely helps to have more than one complainant, especially if the allegation is an old one.
I'm going to take you back in time for a moment. Do you think that the experience of Anita Hill, who brought sexual harassment allegations and sexual misconduct allegations against then nominee for Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas, had a chilling effect on women?
I think it did a little bit because the effect that it had in the media, the fact that she brought the report, people started questioning whether or not it was worthwhile to even make a report at that point. So I think it did have a little bit of a chilling effect. And I think what we have now going on is having the snowball effect. And everybody is coming forward, bringing forth what happened to them.
Is there a concern that what we're experiencing is a conviction by allegation? People are being tried in the media or not, just by alleging something or having something alleged against them, they're losing their jobs. And should we be concerned about that?
I don't really think that's what's happening because, as you well know, every company has a policy, should have a, of course, well-drafted sexual harassment policy, provide training on that policy. When somebody comes forward, all of these people have come forward and made these allegations, and then HR will conduct an investigation and a prompt, thorough, impartial investigation, and they are required to take, if the allegations are substantiated, some sort of prompt corrective action. So the investigation part is there to come to to find the truth and find whether the allegations are really happened or not. So,
and we're going to take another very quick break and come back and actually talk about what you should do and who you should report it to. Stay with us. Okay, and we're back. The question is, what do you do if you're on the receiving end of sexual misconduct? When do you go to the police, or do you go to HR first, even if it's an attack or an assault?
Well, I think if ever there is a physical attack, you should always report that to the police, absolutely, immediately, so that they can get the ball rolling in terms of an investigation, preserve evidence. That helps and goes a long way in moving a case forward and getting it prosecutable and viable. Having that prompt outcry, prompt response, or declaration of something happening to them is incredibly important. I understand why women do in the workplace, though, go via talking to management instead, because they think maybe I could have done something different. Maybe I should have done something to sort of stop it. Maybe I sent the wrong message, and they do go instead that route. That's fine, because that's considered an outcry of sorts, in my view. But if you're attacked, physically attacked, absolutely report that to the police.
But you don't think, well, I won't put words in your mouth. Somebody taps you on the butt once. Is that a crime?
It can be. If you didn't consent to it and you're not looking to have somebody tap you on the butt, then absolutely that is a crime. The question is, can we prosecute it beyond a reasonable doubt, the one tap? We look for other evidence. Was there anyone else in the room? Was there, any other evidence to substantiate that it happened? Does the individual concede that they did it? So we look at other evidence to see whether or not it's prosecutable. But if somebody taps you on the butt and, you're not working in any profession where you should be getting your butt tapped, then yeah, it's actionable.
What do you say? When should you report it?
Well, very, very important under the law and under each organization's policy that anyone who feels that they have been harassed, either experienced harassment or witnesses harassment, needs to report it immediately to HR. And as I said, then HR must conduct a prompt, thorough, and impartial investigation. And if substantiated, then they have to take some sort of disciplinary action. And yes, even just one offensive touching can absolutely violate the law and violate the policies. So it's so important. And, HR departments know this. That's why they conduct training. They should be conducting sexual harassment training. So they want employees to come forward. By coming forward, you're giving HR the opportunity to sort of nip it in the bud before it escalates into an actual lawsuit. They can actually not be able to assert the affirmative defenses under Farragut and Ellerth if they do not report it and they just sit by and be harassed for 5 years. So important to report it.
But what if it's your boss?
Even if it's your boss. So there's really no difference. There's no difference between the head of an organization, the CEO, and the lowest person in that organization. That is the most important thing that HR needs to understand, is that they have to apply their policies equally across the board to everyone. And even if it was your boss or the CEO that violated your policies, they have to take disciplinary action, which could include firing the person.
We have a question from Facebook Live. How do we go about educating the younger generation of both men and women about this topic in order to prevent sexual harassment? And I think what they really want to know is guidelines. What is permissible and what isn't permissible? Can you tell a joke? Can you, where's the line?
That's a tough question, because everybody has different upbringings, different sensibilities, and different thresholds for what they're willing to tolerate in terms of a joke. Can a single joke rise to the level of an actionable claim under sexual harassment? It depends how egregious the comment is, but it depends. A variety of workplaces have people who joke around and banter about. You got to be careful. You got to be careful with the words that you're using. Your audience, know your audience. Know that you can't be making racially charged comments at the coffee, clutch. You can't, probably make any statements that are going to really demean or degrade women
or
offend them.
Can you ask someone out at work?
Well, of course, one employee asking another employee out on a date, of course, is not harassment. There is an essential element of either type of harassment that's required, and that is that it be unwelcome. So if it's consensual and mutual, it would not constitute harassment. So just one asking out on a date, of course, that would not be harassment.
But if you're turned down,
if they say no,
don't push the issue.
That's right. And you continue to send flowers and chocolate and concert tickets, you can cross the line into stalking the person. And then, of course, it would create a hostile work environment.
But it could also be a crime.
Could be.
One last question, since we're at holiday party season.
Yes.
Any advice on how to properly behave at your office holiday party?
Well, you should be aware that your anti-harassment policy protects you wherever you are. You don't just have to be in the workplace. You can be at a holiday party. You can be on a business trip. You can even be whitewater rafting to bond with your department, and your policy protects you. There are so many sexual harassment cases that come from holiday parties. So be aware, make sure that maybe HR should do a little training before the holiday party, review their policy with everyone, and remind everyone that even though this isn't the workplace, you're expected to act professionally and
Don't drink so much.
yeah, don't
Don't
no
drink
liquor
so
and
much.
have spouses.
Don't drink so much, and colleagues look out for each other to make sure that you don't overstep.
Thank you both for joining us. A very interesting discussion. I know that the discussion is going to be continuing everywhere. We also thank the Bot Shop Studio for our new background designs. We hope you liked it. We're going to take a quick break, but after that, Mike Witch will be back with more of the Local Live.
All this happiness and giving for the holidays. I say bah humbug. Who's there? It is I, the ghost of LMC TV past. What do you want? Because of your continual lack of donations, the nonprofit LMC TV no longer has the ability to cover community events or hold classes for the children in a larger space. Think about the children, I don't have any children. You won't be able to watch government meetings and complain about taxes from the comfort of your own living room. What? Oh, no. No. Send your tax-free donation today and keep LMC TV going, or 3 ghosts will come to haunt you. The ghosts from the public channel, the education channel, and the municipal channel. Please, don't take away my LMC TV. I'll donate in the morning. Boy, what month is this?
Why, it's December, sir.
Ah, I have not missed it. There is still time to donate to LMC TV.
What a sport in Jeff Megan. And speaking of sports, the Rhinebeck boys basketball team hosted Children's Village with both teams looking for the season's first win. It was the Panthers that worked up a sizable first half advantage when senior Aiden Heaton added the cherry on top in the LMC Varsity Sports Play of the Week.
And Ramos pushes the pace with 5 seconds up to Heaton. Heaton shoots the 3 at the buzzer and hits. Big
Aiden
three-point
Heaton
basket.
going into the half with 15 points. Took the shot and then ran right off the court. He knew that one was
Yeah,
good.
great pass by Ramos. Heaton hits the 3 going into the half. Rhinebeck leads 41-6 over Children's Village.
Welcome back, everyone, to Meteor Minute on the Local Live. I'm Jupiter Joe. This has been an exciting month for local astronomers, so let's jump right into a cosmic rundown. On December 9th, the Liberty Science Center in New Jersey unveiled its new Jennifer Chalsey Planetarium, which is the largest, most advanced planetarium in the Western Hemisphere. The experience makes you feel like you were launched into space. The planetarium currently is presenting many shows, but one of the most fantastic views was an exclusively newly developed fly-through of the Orion Nebula. This is the most detailed imagery of the Orion Nebula, which is over 1,300 light years away. But sitting in the planetarium, you're transported right inside. So be sure to visit www.lsc.org for more information. Moving closer to home, November 29th was our observing session in Mamaroneck, and boy, was it a success. Dozens of people coming out from many wonderful sights. But don't worry, Star Trackers, there's always something to see up above. One of my favorite targets to see isn't a star, a moon, or a planet. Instead, it's the International Space Station. Flying over 200 miles above, orbiting the Earth 16 times a day, this magnificent football field-sized satellite is visible with the naked eye. You'll have lots of opportunities to see it every night from January 23rd through February 14th, as the International Space Station will make at least one visible pass each night. So visit www.meteorminute.org to learn more. Well, that's it for this month's installment of Meteor Minute. Be sure to catch us next month when we talk about the scale of the solar system. For those of you that are interested in joining us for our next monthly observing session, join us on December 29th in front of Smashburger on Mamaroneck Avenue from 5:30 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Now stay tuned for more on the Local Live.
Thank you, Jupiter Joe. And now it's time for Pet Rescue's Pet of the Week. Here's Charlie. This 4-year-old Santa's helper is a big hit at Pet Rescue. He's described as so sweet, and he loves to play with toys and other cats and humans and tunnels. Don't leave him out in the cold. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. This 5-year-old Chihuahua is ready to swoop in and rescue your heart. Superman likes other dogs and humans, and when he isn't fighting crime, he'd love to go home with you and keep your lap warm. To add Charlie or Superman under your tree this holiday season, or to check out other pets, go to ny-petrescue.org. And we always welcome new volunteers and interns here at the Local Live. We love hearing from our viewers. Send an email to thelocallive@lmctv.org. Remember, all of our shows are available on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mike Witch. Mamaroneck, stay friendly. Larchmont, stay classy. Good night.